and welcome to Animals Labs. We're back here as we discussed with the patch notes that have come out. This is the Fusion Champion and just some of the extra stuff that's come out. So we'll go through it, we'll discuss my thoughts, what I think of these particular champions, and anything else of relevance in the patch notes. It's all unscripted, so you'll have to live with my initial thoughts. So these update highlights. A Raiders patch is due to arrive soon, and we believe it's the Fusion is out on the 2nd. Working on some major features right now and some few quality and light improvements, but there's not going to be much in this patch. So this Volt Versolve the Grim is the Fusion Champion, a horse, which is interesting. HP based Night Rev. We have foot count, so 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's actually pretty decent for legendaries that have come out recently. Some of them are as high as 16 or 18. Then Admonishing. Attacks one enemy, 50% chance of placing a provoke. Also places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to their 10% of their max HP. I mean, the provoke, yes, is okay. 50% chance, I guess, on A1. So I've already thought about it. So initial I have an idea of where he might be. Rain of Sorrow attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under stun. Freeze, Fear, True Fear, and Provoke debuffs. Each hit has a 100% if you book it chance of placing Leech for 2 turns. It's on a 3-turn cooldown with Leech for 2 turns. And it isn't going to place any of these on the boss, and any bosses. But quality minions places increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. And that will be on a 3-turn cooldown. When hit has a 20% chance of placing a provoke debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. Okay, and then he increases allies for 1 hit. This is a nice defensive kit. Where would you find him being abused? Obviously with provoke has some place in arena, but I don't think that's his main choice, main usage. By looking at this, 1 enemy attack provoke on an A1 is really good versus the Magma Dragon. And also places a shield on himself for 2 turns, which means I guess you'd have to mix this up, the cooldowns up, but that means he can solo the Scarab boss if you built him right. Just this here. Wouldn't need anything else. You just set him up to use the AI just to use his A1, or you manual it if you want to. Just set it up so that he literally just A1s. He should never have an issue. You'll need to build him with the right resistance and stuff. And I think he's the right affinity actually for Scarab. I mean, the leech buff is nice if you can get it on, will help him staying alive versus those. This increased defense and ally protection is interesting. Could, with this and the ally protection, he could work in against the clan boss with leech as a HP or he's okay. I think myself, I probably will get him just because of the fact he can solo Scarab, and I don't have anyone who can do that right now. Unless you got ways of doing that, he's actually looks quite useful for this. Might take a while, but you could build him the right way. I think you need 321 resistance, and you'll need like 270 accuracy, but it could be done. Got a new champion, Cleopatrix. Interesting. Skinwalkers, they need these champions, that's for sure. Spirit, we like it. Attack, oh, we already like the theme. So what we got here? Book count 4, 8, 13. Again, that's actually fairly good for recently. Oh, so this is under the Hex mechanic. Attacks one enemy has a 30% chance of placing weaken debuff, increases to 50%, up to 70% with books of the target is under Hex. Okay. Places perfect veil on this champion for 1 turn if their attack kills an enemy. This is never going to come up. Like placing perfect veil on the target that you kill with Hex, you can't rely on this. But this fight itself, fate is a weaken, which is bad. Feather Barrage places 30% increased crit rate buff on all champions for 2 turns. On this champion for 2 turns. Then attacks all enemies. Okay, so he gains increased crit rate for has a 100% chance of placing block active skills debuff if they're under Hex. But not Hex. Sky Punishment. So this guy has got one of the funny abilities from the Doom Tower. Places 50% accuracy on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies, has 100 when booked, chance of placing Hex debuff for 3 turns. Has 100% chance of placing Fear debuff on turn instead on enemies under Hex debuff. It's a 4-turn cooldown, it adds Hex. That's interesting. Potentially he goes well with Rule if you have him, because you can set all this off. Like you could set this Rule to go first, put his Hex out, and then use Feather Barrage to block active skills for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. I don't know how good he is without setup, because like if you want block active skills, you want it on that first turn. So I think Doom Tower, when you're going against some of those big nukers or Morty Macabre, don't want to wait a turn. You're gonna have to do, because you're gonna have to put Hex up. So he needs the support from that champion. She, we don't really know. Needs the support from that champion. Otherwise, this kit looks interesting. Countermand here attacks the default skill every time this champion loses 30% HP or more. Always counter attacks when attacked if 2 or more allies are dead. So again, he's got the potential to solo bosses just with this ability and lifesteal. If you get him, you have uses for him, but I wouldn't be pulling shards for him just straight out. Again, we'd like to, with this model, I'd love to see what this model actually looks like. Uhanarak, Void Barbarians. Void, so she should be good, but we've got what? 8, 9, 10, 11 books. I don't know why they've suddenly changed on their legendary books, but I'm liking it. Attacks one enemy. Sun's Kiss, sorry. Attacks one enemy. 30% chance of placing decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Places a 15% continual heal buff on this champion for 1 turn. Also places, okay, going to be hitting someone, dropping their speed 50% of the time and gaining a heal. Bad. Radiant Suffering. Attacks one enemy, has a 75 books to 100% chance of placing decreased attack and a block buffs debuff for 2. Also places a debuff spread effect, taking 2 random buffs from the target, placing them on all enemies. Does that happen before or after? This is too random for me. I mean, let's assume that you put out decreased defense and weaken a poison on everyone. For example, you know, like Doom Lord or something. Or you have a provoke from one of your champions or something else. You can't control this block buffs, which is the decreased attack is okay, but the block one buff one is the big one. On a 3-turn cooldown. Interesting. think it's niche. I think you'd have to set this up for her to be good so far. Places increased defense and an increased speed. All allies for 2 turns. This is nice. Removes 1 random debuff from allies at the start of each turn. Ooh. Removes 2 random debuffs from the allies. Okay. This passive is amazing. And her accuracy in all battles is good. So, first things first is she's good in clan boss because she's got decreased attack, which will go on. The block debuffs is kind of irrelevant. But she's got increased defense and increased speed. Plus, she's removing 1 debuff, so she can remove the stun target if you build her. So think like Doom Priest. And she's going to be healing someone each turn. The decreased speed is not relevant in clan boss. The increased accuracy here is really nice. She's going to be removing 1 debuff at the start of each turn. Not clear if it's her turn or how that works. Assuming it will be of her turn, maybe that should read. But either way, she's good. She's a support champion. I wouldn't be relying on Radiant Suffering, but this passive and this fitness plus this accuracy mean that she's good. You can put her as a lead. Anywhere that you need to remove buffs again, debuffs. A lot of Doom Tash is going to be very good. Nice looking at visuals. Again, yes, if you get this one, would you pull for her? Maybe, probably, depending on what else is in that 10x. I have 2x void shards. What have we got here? Falius Grave Dirt. So I happen to know, seeing this guy's got candles on his shoulder pads and a great big shield. Interesting. Not sure how you see through this helmet, but defense, magic, epic, nice so far. Foot count 1, 2, 4, 9, 10, 11. Okay, cool. Grasp of the Grave has a 40% chance of placing a provoke. Places 50% decrease attack if the target is under fear or true fear debuff. Interesting. Placing attacks all enemies has a 75% chance, which books to 100, of placing 100% heal reduction for 2 turns. Then places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP. Good stuff. You'd want it to be 4 HP and build him HP, but also places 15% strengthen, so that's the baby strengthen, on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn down. It's interesting. Immune to fear and terror, true fear. Whenever an ally's HP drops below 50% from an enemy attack, has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on the attacker. When the ally dies, has a 75% chance of placing true fear. I'm not really sure what he's supposed to do. You know, he's going to be adding fear to stuff. Increase attack if they're feared is not relevant because, you know, he's having to wait for someone to take significant amount of damage for that to trigger. At which point, you know, the shield places the shield on 2 turns is quite nice, but again, it's 30% of their HP, so it's a 10k shield if you're hitting one of your tank or something. He seems unfocused. Again, with this aura, he'd be okay in faction wars. I don't think I'd run him in 21. Not actually impressed with him. Venomage. Magic support Lizardman. We'll take all the Lizardman we can get. Looks, this is she looks like a huge cobra lizard if you see the side of her head here. She, but to be honest, it's a Lizardman, we don't really know, right? Toxicity. Attacks one enemy 2 times, decreases the target's max HP by 75% of the damage inflicted if they're under heal reduction. Okay. But it's 100% with books. Book count looks like 12. Not too bad. Not great, but not too bad. Each hit has also it has 90% chance, and this has a 50% chance of activating up to 2 of the poison debuffs on the target. So, but when it says activating, what it means is they instantly trigger now, so you remove them. Like a mini explosion. Attacks one enemy has a 100% chance of placing a decreased defense for 2 turns, has a 100% chance of placing a decreased attack if the target is under a poison debuff on a 3-turn cooldown. So 4/3 clan boss right now. Attacks all enemies. Venom, flesh melter venom, flesh melter venom. Having a long day today. Can't speak English. Attacks all enemies. Has a 100% chance of placing heal reduction for 3 turns. Has a 100% chance of placing 2 5% poison debuffs for 2 turns. That increase is all out. This aura is nice. Again, I'm not like. She could be used for 4/3. You could be used for 4/3 in clan boss if you have a poison comp, but she has to go after everyone because they need to have poison on them. Bet she focuses this first. But the heal reduction doesn't trigger, so her HP is not doing anything. And she's going to be blowing up the only poisons on the team. I mean, she's definitely worth decreased defense, decreased attack. I thought, but again, like potentially, of all of these champions, this one is good. We have miscellaneous, so these are the general updates. Summoning this is the 3rd legendary guy from the Dim Tower. Fragments will be moved to part 7 of the progress mission. Okay, not too bad. Voids, oh, this is amazing. Void Shaman shards will receive a 10x option. When you get 30 of them, you don't want to go through one at a time. And if you do clan boss in a night, you get enough of them. Tapping the cell button. Okay, this is cool. Done this once. You have an item on it and you hit sell because you want to sell something, it auto selects the one that you're on. This will no longer doing it. Yeah, it's an extra click, but I've sold a pair of speed boots before that I didn't want to sell. Even players who are not part of clan. Okay, so this is to encourage people to go to the clan. Quite happy with that. But that looks like that's everything. Definitely wouldn't be upset with like all of these champions has a use, so don't be upset if you get one of them. Those are the highlights. We look forward to something new coming out soon. So if you do have any questions, please reach out in the comments. I ask that you like and subscribe. All of you have a good day.